If you've got any questions at any point, please pop them in the chat. What we're going to do is hear a little bit about from each farm, and then from Andy, and then take questions from the floor as well as some other ones. So please do just pop them in as they go, and I'll ask them when we get to that point. Again, as Caroline mentioned, real focus for us today and as a project as a whole is about collaboration. So please have that in your mind, that we're really open to new ideas, and you know, we've got to that point, I think, where we've got a solid platform to really make the most of in other parts of the industry. So first, I'm going to hand over to Craig and Claire up in Scotland to tell us a little bit about their business, why they got involved in Resilient and Ready, and their work in progress around energy. Craig and Claire, over to you.
Thank you, Alice. Good morning, everybody. We've got a family-run business. As in family, it's me and Claire and my two boys, which are 4 and 6. We've only been trading for about 10 years now. Our farm has a few different legs to it. We'll just kind of go through them, give you an idea of where we're at. We've 150,000 laying hens, which 95,000 are in enriched colony systems, and 55,000 of them are in free-range systems. We produce about 1 million eggs every week that are retailed into Aldi, Lidl, Morrisons and Tesco. We've also got 2,000 pigs, which we buy in at 7.5 kilos and take right through to finish. We get 500 pigs every 5 weeks, so we sell on average, simple calculation, 100 pigs a week. We also have 150 bull heifers that we buy as yearlings, and we take through and sell them privately to guys that we've built up a relationship with over a few years. We do pelvic measuring and blood testing and try and do a specific selection system for these guys. We have 500 acres of land that we run, which is split with 120 acres into grassland, which is mainly permanent grass, and the remaining 380 acres is crops that we grow ourselves. So we grow spring barley, winter barley, oilseed rape, and winter wheat. But we're going to be adding beans to that this year. We've kind of gained a bit of confidence working with the LEAF team to say, let's go for it and try and grow some more of our own protein. So all these things going on, we was interested in getting in touch with LEAF because we wanted to try and pull it all together, because we've got a lot of different things operating, but different parts of the business is complemented other parts. And when all this was going on and we're trying to market some of our products, the question of carbon footprint keeps coming back at us, and how much carbon we are producing to generate eggs, generate kilograms of pig meat, keep cattle, grow our own crops and things like that. So we're really keen to work with LEAF to try and get some of this quantified going forward. So we'll open for questions later on, but we'll be delighted to hear from you.
Great, thanks very much, Craig. And I know you've been doing a bit of work looking in more detail at some of the energy stuff. So I'll tease that out of you a little bit later. Yeah. Harriet, can I come on to you? So as I said, Harriet farms with her partner Ben, who's talking in another breakout room. Yeah, not too far from Craig and Claire up in Aberdeenshire. But yeah, Harriet, would you mind talking a bit about your business, why you got involved in Resilient Ready, and also you've done quite a lot of work on the carbon auditing, so perhaps a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, thanks, Alice. Yeah, so we're a fairly new farming business. We started farming just last year, around about harvest time. We were successful in securing an SLDT tenancy. So we've got about 400 acres. We're both fully employed off farm. So we use a lot of contractors. It's mainly arable, just to sort of keep labour down. So we do have, yeah, the combinable crops. We have maybe 40, 50 acres in grass for a local AD plant. Again, we just thought it's good to keep grass in the rotation, and it keeps, you know, labour side of things down for us if it's just let out to the neighbour. We also share farm, my dad's farm, which is just 5 miles away. We work with him using machinery. You know, we're a new start business, so yeah, machinery was a big issue trying to buy that. So we sort of work for use of his machinery and work the land. That's an all arable unit he's got, so that's about 500 acres, adding to our, you know, 350 of we've got of crops here. It's an old dairy we took on, so it's really good land, it's been well looked after, and we want to, you know, try and keep that organic matter in the soil, and keep looking after the soil. So we've converted a few of the sheds for nursery pigs. So we've got a contract with a company, and they fill us 1,200 pigs every 6-7 weeks. We get nurseries from 7 kilos, and they leave us at 30 kilos after about 6-7 weeks. We're actually increasing our numbers to 2,500. So yeah, we have another 2,000 arriving on Christmas Eve, so that'll be good fun. Yeah, and we're really keen on carbon auditing. We've already done 2 carbon audits, you know, using different tools, just to compare the different tools, and they give you a slightly different, you know, insight into the business. You know, how efficient you're using resources, and we're sort of on a fact-finding mission because we're such a new business. But we thought, you know, we better start and have a benchmark now to go on. You know, if we change things in the future, we're looking at, you know, different sort of tillage options, drill options, to reduce our carbon footprint, better use of muck. So that was a big reason we introduced the pigs, just to reduce our reliance on bagged fertiliser, keep the straw on farm, and get the muck back from the pigs, which is helping both soil health and reduce costs, I suppose, from our fertiliser purchases, and, you know, hopefully reduce our carbon footprint at the same time. Our biggest emissions are fertiliser and fuel, being a predominantly arable business. So yeah, it was just looking into them a bit more detail. We're starting to record fuel a bit better as well, you know, for specific jobs, you know, on the farm, and logging that so we can actually start to manage it. We need to measure it first, and then we can look to manage it and change things in the future.
Great, thanks very much, Harriet. And I think that, yeah, fascinating to be able to be part of that starting, you know, point with you guys, to get that information, and then the sort of trial work that you're looking at is really interesting too. Andy, can I come to you next? So Andy Guy is an independent consultant who we work really closely with at LEAF. Andy works with a lot of businesses as they look at going through this process and attention to detail. So Andy, would you mind talking a little bit about what you do generally, what you've worked on with these businesses, and as I say, particularly around that sort of energy and focus on attention to detail?
Okay, thank you, Alice. Yeah, so I'm Andy Guy. I'm an independent sustainable food and farming consultant based in the East Midlands. I work throughout the UK and abroad. I've done some work on the continent and also in Jersey. I'm an ex-dairy farmer. I was a new entrant myself in the dim and distant past in the 1990s. And I began consultancy work in 2010. The services I offer vary from kind of conventional business planning right through to LEAF mark compliance and optimization. And I suppose at the moment, probably 2/3 of my work is related to LEAF in some way, whether that be LEAF mark or LEAF Sustainable Farming Review work. I'm a huge fan. I first did the LEAF Sustainable Farming Review, or LEAF Audit as it was called in the 1990s, and found that it helped me drill down into the details of my business. And once I started measuring the minute details and starting to manage those details, it helped me to improve the performance of my farm, not just environmentally, which LEAF is an environmental charity, but not just environmentally, but financially as well. And so I became something of an evangelist for it. And I remain that way. So that what I do for my clients is help them identify the things that will make big differences to their businesses, both environmentally and financially. So with these guys, and actually with the two farms in the south as well, much more established businesses that we've got in the south, I've been working with them to complete the Sustainable Farming Review, identify areas where they can make big differences, and a big part of that for all farmers actually is in their energy consumption, which some of which comes from the obvious things of fuel and electricity, but there's a big impact, as Harriet's just identified there, with fertilizer use and waste and things like that. So we've been focusing quite hard on drilling down into the details of where all of that is going and how we can adjust it and change it.
Great, thank you very much, Andy. So yeah, just thinking about that attention to detail and the energy side of things and the financial side. Craig, I know you've done a little bit of work on this over the summer. Would you mind just expanding a bit on what you started to look at and the impacts that's having on the business and bottom line and things?
Yeah, no problem. What LEAF has made us do is look at every little detail and question everything, every aspect of your business, and it's like they ask for evidence of consideration of everything you do, and we have started monitoring all the diesel we use by a simple method of writing the liters for each machine, goes into a book, and then it is put into a spreadsheet, and then we know exactly which each operation each machine is using. And simple things like flotation tires on trailers and things like that, we've done an experiment with that, and found that the flotation tires on main roads sucks diesel out of a tractor engine exponentially. But a wee bit more technical is the egg-based thing. We've been populating. That's more Claire's job, so she's going to tell you a bit about that.
Yeah, so the opportunity arose through the LEAF Resilient and Ready programme with a company called Eggbase. And Eggbase is a service platform for egg producers that covers all production and recording for audit documentation requirements for BEIC, which is the British Egg Industry Council, and all other assurance schemes. So we already were keeping track of our production information just through a simple system of a spreadsheet. But Eggbase is a web-based platform, and it's obviously a lot more sophisticated, and it's a simple process to use for inputting more information. So it allows us to enter all our production and flock information into a central place and benchmark against breed standards. Eggbase are also currently adding a carbon footprinting module, which takes the data entered and turns it into a carbon footprint. So we're trialling this with Eggbase at the moment to see what the result is going to come out, and that'll give us our starting benchmark for going forward. So we're really keen to give it a go and see how it will help us collate all our information together into one central place.
And what's happening is we've got 9 employees plus ourselves, and the employees help us populate the egg-based system by keeping other records. And it's actually caused or created a bit of competitiveness between the different poultry buildings, and I want to try and beat one another to be more energy efficient and get better production results. So that's like a benefit. It's just bolted itself onto the side of the system itself. So it just adds a wee bit of more buzz to the yard when we're all here chatting and news about things, and keeps the banter going as well.
Yeah, I think that's great to hear that. Yeah, a bit of competition goes a long way, and a lot of this as well. You know, you know, working with Craig and Claire and working with Harriet and Ben and the 2 farms down south, but very aware, you know, the team behind that and in front of that and all around it is a big part of it. So actually, you know, some of these marginal gains, to actually make them, you need everybody to be on board with that. So coming up with tools and mechanisms and you know, the inspiration and banter, as you say, Craig, to bring everyone in the same direction is a really crucial part. So I think that, and if it can be fun, that always makes it more likely to work. I had a few questions on the chat. One from Isabella about about specific tools, and I think that is a bit of a challenge. So Craig and Claire are trialing egg-based because actually that's one of the only tools out there, I think, that will look at the carbon footprint of eggs. So Isabella, you've asked specifically around soft fruit plants and canes, which I don't know the answer to, although I do know we've done some work with a LEAF Innovation Centre down in Kent, East Malling, so they might have an answer for you, and happy to pick that up at a later date. The other question was again around carbon calculators, and Harriet, you mentioned that you've used a couple on farm, and Say has asked if you could talk a little bit about what you did and yeah, which ones you tried, and I guess which you liked, and the pros and cons of them.
Yeah, we used AgriCalc and the farm carbon calculator. So AgriCalc I've used for lots of years through my job, and up here in Scotland, you know, developed by SRUC. Farmers actually receive government funding to get a carbon audit done through AgriCalc, so they get £500 towards doing it, which basically covers the cost of getting one done. So we did that one first, and just out of interest, I put all the data into the farm carbon calculator as well, to compare the two. They asked for different data, so you can't really compare the two like for like. I think AgriCalc, you know, is a lot more, you can't move on without missing data, whereas farm carbon calculator, you can put in as little or as much data as you want. And I sort of used it as well per field basis. I did do it for the whole farm, the whole business, but also per field it's really useful. We're doing, you know, different drilling methods, so I just wanted to do it per field basis just to see if there was a difference there and pull up that, and I found it really easy to use that way. I think it actually, the farm carbon calculator actually does soft fruits. I don't know who asked that question, but I think it actually does, so maybe have a look on that one. It's free to use, so if you have a dig about, I think it does soft fruit sequestration as well. But yeah, there's a lot out there, and I think they're developing all the time. It's such a new well, it's not a new concept, but it's taken off, you know, in the last 6 months. So I think the thing that AgriCalc does, if it's a funded one, or if you pay for it, it does benchmark you. So it benchmarks you with all the data that's in the tool, which yeah, actually is beneficial, you know, because it gives you a guide of, you know, how bad you are, how good you are, where you can improve on. And I think that is to come from the farm carbon calculator as well. They're thinking about that next, so I think it's all to develop.
Andy, did you want to come in there?
Thank you, Alice. I think we're in a sort of Betamax VHS space at the moment with carbon measuring. There's a lot of systems out there, and I think over time probably we'll gravitate to one or two systems which are kind of recognised more widely. So I think it's a real problem for farmers choosing which one. I think though what's important is that we don't all sit on the fence and wait for the system to work itself out, because whichever one you choose, you can benchmark yourself year on year and measure changes as you go. And I think that's really important. The same applies with everything. We're asking, or LEAF Sustainable Farming Review and LEAF Mark is asking farmers to measure and manage aspects of their business. Craig described how they're measuring their diesel with a simple book and transferring from time to time into a spreadsheet. That works fine for them. I've got other clients that are using WhatsApp groups to measure things and record things, you know, all sorts of differences, and some with much more sophisticated systems that are kind of networked. So it's about finding systems to measure things that work for your business, and then maintaining that system, and you know, so that you can benchmark year on year and measure and manage performance as you go. If you're not measuring it in the first instance and you're just waiting for somebody to come up with a good system, then there's no way for you to manage it and change it. You just don't know where your energy is going.
Yeah, and it gives you the opportunity, yeah, basically, as you say, Andy, to look in more detail at that. Harriet, you mentioned you were trying some stuff on fields, presumably to look in even more detail and at a practical level. Would you mind just expanding on sort of what you're trialing and what you're looking to find out in that space?
Yeah, so we have two sort of 6-year-old lay grass that we were looking to turn over and put wheat into. So we've got 2 fields side by side basically, and we have ploughed and power harrow drilled one of them, and the next door one we have just min-till, strip-tilled, Missouri drilled the wheat directly into the lay. So yeah, we're just trialing it at the moment. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We've got all the data so far, you know, of fuel use and time, but it'll then convert into yield and see if we are actually more efficient just min-tilling it, or you know, how it affects worm. We're doing worm counts, so yeah, and how it affects the soil health, soil structure. You know, we'd like to believe that grass has created a lot of soil structure over the years, and we want to keep that, you know, as much as possible. So hopefully we've done it with the min-till drill.
Great, yeah, and I think, yeah, really looking forward to seeing the results of that. And as you know, we've sort of said, we can focus too much on the intricacies of the tools, and it's about using one and sticking with it perhaps. But just to say, yeah, Harriet mentioned that she's using the farm carbon cutting calculator, which is available free online, and looking at individual fields to do that sort of comparison, and she mentioned that being quite straightforward, so that can be a benefit. Carbon, that tool also looks at the whole farm, which for us at LEAF is quite critical, that it's a whole farm approach, so we're interested in the whole farm carbon output. AgriCalc is similar. The egg-based one that Craig's looking at, and farm, the Cool Farm tool, look at individual crops, which is also very interesting, and sometimes you need to look at that detail, especially as we said with Craig, when that's perhaps not, that can be lost in the kind of broader tool. So I think it's an interesting space that's gonna keep developing for sure.
I think a lot of people get put off because you know of the word carbon audit, and you know, farmers just don't want to do one, but it's actually an efficiency audit. That's what it's looking at. It's looking at how well you're using your resources and making it as a sustainable business as possible. So that's basically what it is, I think.
Yeah. I see there's a question popped up in there just now about if we are doing it separately for different types of production. That was a question that we asked ourselves right at the start, and I think we need to do both, because at a lot of meetings that I've been to when I was growing up, I was told that a mixed farm was always the most efficient, and then the next meeting you go to, you said that you had to become more intensive. So we've kind of went down both routes and tried to be intensive mixed farm. So I think we need to do the carbon audit and the efficiency as them separate, to see that each aspect is standing on its own feet, but then tie it all together to make sure the efficiency of the whole business is working in the same direction. Okay, so we'll have to do both. Is the answer to that question that's popped up there?
Thanks very much, Craig. And you can see from Craig just how much energy he has for carbon auditing with individual and at a whole farm level, which I think you're absolutely right to look at it in that level of detail, for sure. Harriet, you mentioned it's essentially an efficiency audit, which is brilliant to hear because I think we need practical tools. Out of that, and that's all part of Resilient and Ready, is to set some objectives for your business of you know, how you're going to improve efficiency, perhaps reduce your carbon footprint. Yes, can you tell us a little bit about those, your particular areas of focus going forward?
I think it really for us is fertilizer use and fuel. So we want to start analysing our muck from the pigs, and actually knowing what's in it, and maybe even adding biological things to it, and to add to the soil, and help maybe release the nitrogen quicker, because that's a big issue for us. Up here, we put on nitrogen early just to get crops going, and we need that to be readily available to the crops. So with muck, it's a bit more slow release, so we're just trying to think about innovative ways that we can get that working a bit better for us. Fuel, yeah, I mean, like I said, the drill is our big one. We rely on contractors, so we're quite lucky, I suppose, that we can pick and choose what drill we can use. We're not, we haven't gone out and bought one, and we can't just stick to that one. We can, pick and choose contractors and try different things. So I think we're lucky there. Our electricity, so we're a private water supply, so most of our electricity is used to pump water, and it's really a bit of an unknown quantity right now. We don't, there's no meters anywhere, so we've actually installed meters at the pig sheds just to sort of monitor what they're doing, and we're looking to do it into the house as well, just to see what we're using there. So it's just about getting a handle on things, I think, to begin with, and then we can see what we're actually using forward. Yeah,
that measuring side of things, and often water and efficiency and energy sort of go hand in hand in that space. So good to hear you're looking at both of those. The sort of other side of carbon auditing and footprinting is so that you have that figure, to shout about, essentially, and that you can monitor yourself, and externally people can see the sort of the carbon footprint of your business, and that's sometimes a driving factor as well. Craig and Claire, is that important for you guys? Are you being asked for this figure by any of your customers? I guess is the external side of it important to you as well as the business efficiency side?
Yeah, it's becoming more and more regular when we're negotiating contracts and deals. Probably more so with the pigs rather than with eggs at the moment. They want us to quantify it, and they want us to quantify where all our feed's coming from. We're using a lot of feed, using about 25 to 30 tonne a day. Cereal crops to feed our stock, so it's a huge figure, the amount of protein that we're using. And again, it's back to LEAF. That's why we got into it for a start. We wanted to try and source or become or find a more sustainable source of protein for our business. But when we get an audit now from BIC, they are asking where our protein comes from, and we have to supply paperwork for it. And so this is just a stepping stone onto where the carbon is going to be offset, or how can we offset more carbon or take on carbon to make it more sustainable for these businesses going forward, because they're going to shout about it as well. But we can only keep at it. But we produce a lot of muck as well, so we're trying to offset some of this carbon by utilising our own muck. And we've been working with Lewis McKerrow, it was mentioned earlier on. We're doing different trials on mainly the winter barley to see if there's even things like sugar, putting sugar onto the land and to try and get the cetones in the land up and going, so they can create nitrogen, so we then have to put nitrogen on through the bag. Just things like this. It's going to help us going forward to try and offset our carbon a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's, we've tried to focus in on these sessions, but inevitably with integrated farm management, all the other sort of parts of it come into play, as well, as you say, Craig, through the soil side of things. The other bit that often comes through for energy is the sort of cost savings, which Andy, you mentioned a little bit to begin with, but Craig, you mentioned in terms of diesel and that sort of side of things. But Andy, I was just wondering from your experience working with both these guys and also more broadly, is that something that you often find, and do you have any sort of examples that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, thank you, Alice. Yeah, I mean, hand in hand with the carbon savings and the environmental benefits in this section is that, every litre of diesel you save is money directly onto your bottom line, isn't it? So Craig talked about his example of comparing his flotation tyres with road-going tyres for his trailers, and I think having done that, Craig and Claire have invested in a second set of tyres. So now they swap the tyres for the winter when the trailers are no longer going onto the farm. It's interesting. On a separate farm, it was actually a potato business in Jersey. I was encouraging them to drill deeper and deeper and deeper into their figures, and they'd got a situation where they had two identical tractors and trailers running to and from the field, the same field, hauling potatoes back to the yard. And the two tractors, modern tractors with telemetry built into them, were performing very differently. They had a 35% difference in fuel consumption between the two machines when they actually investigated it. So they'd been looking at overall diesel consumption and working on that, buying an efficient machine. But it was only when they drilled into it in real detail that they discovered the difference between these two. And it came down partly to driving style, but mostly actually to tyre pressures. And so they've been able to address that and save themselves quite a significant amount of money. 35% difference in fuel consumption over 2,000 hours a year. It's really significant saving there for those people that they wouldn't have done if it hadn't been for going really into the detail. And I see that kind of thing everywhere I go.
And okay, I'll come in back at that. And what I mentioned before is evidence of consideration. And a lot of farmers that's listening to this just now, they will be thinking about tyre pressures and they'll think about diesel usage and things like that. But what LEAF does is make you quantify it and give evidence that you've thought about it and actually record it. And then when it comes to, like, when we are negotiating deals with the supermarkets or the abattoirs or our processors, we've got that information to hand to go forward with.
Great. Thank you very much, Craig. And we've only got 10 seconds left, so I'll talk fast. I hope answered your questions, and fantastic insight from our farmers on the team, the money, the external influence of carbon auditing, and the efficiency. So so hopefully through that we've all given you the energy for carbon auditing from those sort of multiple focuses on your business, and ably explained by Harriet, Craig and Claire. So a big thank you to you guys and Andy for adding your expertise on other farmers. Who knew? I got another 60 seconds. But if we head back into the main room, we're going to round off there. But thank you, everyone.